Back, you filthy exiles. So today we're going to talk through the Manifesto, which if I look over here, because this is not the usual way that I look, we can see in its glory on this side the Manifesto for 3.19. Now, I thought instead of doing like a reaction video like I'm seeing other people do and being like, oh my god, they're nerfing everything. Look, the reality was they were always going to nerf stuff. But anyway, let's talk through what they're nerfing. I had a quick read through earlier this morning. I can't say that I'm overly impressed with the direction that they're taking. Wow, my wonky eyes showing through in this format. But anyway, let's have a talk through. They're hitting a few things. Now, this being a manifesto, I just want to coin this out that this is not patch notes. Like, this is the initial changes. We don't know what other changes because we don't know anything about the league. We don't know if they're rescaling enemy damage. We don't know a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of unknowns to this. So I want to keep this relatively positive, even though it looks like they're hitting us with the nerf hammer. But anyway, so defense changes. So anyway, let's talk through this. So substantial changes to character defenses in 3.16 had the desired effect to encourage players to invest more heavily in defenses besides life stacking. Now, this is going to be interesting that they're now, it looks like they're hitting some of these defenses. So, but we will be making further changes aimed at making some of the most powerful defense layers requiring more investment and improved diversity. Doing this, I'll just coin this out, this does not improve build diversity, right? The shit that we now have to do with the goddamn ailment mitigation for burning and everything else does not improve build diversity. What it's actually done is put a brick wall in between where melee builds don't fucking work. So I don't agree with this comment, and I know where we're going with this, and I'm not on the page with it, but we'll work with it anyway. We are making a set of changes with this goal in 3.19. We're also considering further changes for future expansions, and we'll be refining that. Now, this is always the same comment. I take it with a grain of salt. Spell suppression. So without going into any crazy levels of detail, spell suppressions get nerfed. So from what I can see here, even the crafting rolls that you can craft in the Eater of Worlds implicits, down to the crafting on items, it looks like, yeah, they're basically dropping the tiers down so you can't craft as vicious levels of spell suppression. Is that good or bad? Well, if you're a spell suppression character, you just got to find more spell suppression in other ways. And you can't get spell suppression implicits on boots anymore while moving. Yeah, I don't think that this is the right thing to do. But it is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day. They're trying to reduce people from creating builds with absurd damage. But I'd also argue the bigger problem here isn't the fucking spell suppression. It's the fact that they've got Mage Blood in the game. Like, take Mage Blood out of the game or change it so it's not a build corrector. None of this really matters because Mage Blood exists. So they're not really tackling the shit that matters. But hey, that's fine. So Arctic Armor's getting a buff. That's a plus. So up to 20% less fire damage and 21% less physical damage. Look, I for one think Arctic Armor's really good. And for the builds that I play where you sit in one space predominantly and just face tank bosses, Arctic Armor's going to be way better than running Defiance Banner now. So, and we'll talk about that one next. So Flesh and Stone's getting a buff by the looks. So it looks like the mana reservation's getting dropped. Oh no. Its damage reduction is getting dropped. So potentially it's going to be better to run Flesh and Stone. Actually, Defiance Banner in itself is just way too good. And even Arctic Armor, the reservation on that's so minimal that it's probably still going to be better than Flesh and Stone, but Flesh and Stone might be more viable. Yeah. So that's somewhat of an improvement for Flesh and Stone, but I don't think it's enough. But anyway, not enough for me to be convinced to use it in like a mage build. Defiance Banner. Alright. And this was inevitable that they were going to pull this shit. So they're now dropping Defiance Banner to 15 to 24% increased armor from 30 to 49. I don't think that that is a good call to make, but I think that's splitting hairs. Like, they are increasing the reduced critical strike chance, which I appreciate that, because that's a problem with a lot of enemies, and I can see what they're doing. They're reducing enemy crit, but it's almost it's not impactful when you're dealing with characters that use like Brass Dome, like my my Blazing Salvo tune. So I'm not convinced by this being a good change, because this is such a universally good skill. They're trying to take some of the steam away from Defiance Banner and place it back into Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone, because no one's playing these skills anymore. But Flesh and Stone is for melee builds, and melee builds don't work right now. So instead of nerfing defense, they need to be focusing on, they better have some buffs coming in for melee. Alright, Wind Dancer. So Wind Dancer's keystone drawback of taking 20% more attack damage if you've been hit by an attack recently is too risky to make the keystone worthwhile to trade, being worthwhile, even for characters who have evasion. So what are they doing? Wind Dancer passive no longer provides 40% evasion rating if you've been hit by an attack. So it now provides 10% more chance to evade attacks if you've been hit by attack recently. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. I'm okay with that. So with Arrow Dancing, same applies. They're just removing that evade projectile attacks, because if you play an evasion, you don't want to get hit, period. You want that to be like a 1 in 1,000 scenario, so that makes sense to me. Ward is actually getting buffed, which I think is cool. So the Faith Guard unique helmet now has 40 to 60% faster restoration ward from 20 to 30. And now there's new suffix modifiers that can be rolled, granting 58% faster ward restoration. I actually think that that's pretty cool. And if they make ward items a proper defensive item in the game, then ward is actually really powerful. I.e. the ward loop scenario. So technically you could build immortal characters with ward if you gear it up properly, and if they had enough unique items or items and item crafts that allowed ward to be effective, and this is one way of doing that. So, and now just give us some goddamn cluster nodes that attack ward, and also put in some conversion skills that convert ES into ward, and I'll be happy. I'll play ward characters because I think they're really good. Grasping Mail is getting nerfed. So a lot of the higher tier builds are running a Grasping Mail with 100% global defense. They're reducing that 100% global defense to 50% now. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Grasping Mail is way too OP. So that's going to piss off a lot of people. Rework Gravacious Veiled mod. Suited by modifier. Yeah. That's gonna suck, but it is what it is. So they're taking away the conversion of, or the additional ES from your percentage pooling of health, and they're turning that into physical damage from hits is taken as fire damage or lightning damage. I don't think that's going to affect a lot of RF builds, because that's a particular modifier used on RF armor. So I don't agree with that. I think that's taking the mickey, but whatever. It affects builds that use what was it? Not Militant Faith. It affects builds that uses not brutal restraint. It's the red Glorious Vanity, and in particular Doriani roll Glorious Vanities. That'll affect that particular sort of build. Okay, so passives that grant blind effect not adequate. Okay, so they're buffing up blind. So it's not all negatives here. So Silent Step notable passives now grant 40% increased blind from 30%, and 5% increased blind effect. I'm not adverse to that. I don't think that's bad. I think blind's really cool. Mind over matter. Builds that heavily invest in mana in general have been left in an underpowered state by various balance changes. So they're improving mind over matter. So Mana Guardian, or is it Mana? Yeah, Mana Guard. Mana Bond. Sorry. Mana Bond is going to be somewhat more viable now. So mana stacking as defense. So I would say for next league, if they're doing this Ivory Tower builds, and the Crucius flasking is going to be pretty powerful, because that's going to be your chaos mitigator and your defense. And considering the nerfs that they've got further down here around auras, then yeah, mana stacking is going to be pretty powerful again. So yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. Fortification's getting a buff. So now you generate twice as much fortification stacks on hit. That's not bad, which means they may be having a look at melee. If that's the case, then I'm all for that. So bring on the melee. Minion balances. So without going into any crazy detail here, let's just talk through the changes. So they've noted a bit of and this is going to be to do with Skelly Mages. So Skelly Mages is going to get absolutely curb stomped in this patch, because it's just been way too powerful for too many leagues now, and they don't like minion builds by nature. So the damage and life scaling for minions have been adjusted. So gained, that's not really, I think, consequence there. The level of monsters created by raised specters has now been lowered, though remains unchanged at gem level 1. Now creates level 70 monsters at level 20 instead of 72, and 76 monsters at 25 instead of 77. They made it harder to get to gem level 25, which it makes no sense to me. But anyway, added a new ring type. So Bone Ring will increase elemental resistance for minions and has minion related rolls, so I think that's good. Bone, Ivory, and Fossil Spirit Shields are now found with a minion minions deal increased damage implicit modifier. Okay, that's pretty cool. So maybe they are moving towards minions. I'm uncertain at this stage. Mana Storm unique shield is now Lacewood Spirit Shield. And the Kongming's Stratagem Shield is now Ancient Spirit Shield. Okay, that means nothing to us. 2 new wand base items called Calling Wand and Coveting Wand. These base types are 20 and 50 equivalents of the Convoking Wand. So the lower tier versions of that one. Why add that in? Because it's not really needed. Have been added to available. Yeah. That's buffing up early game, but that doesn't really help us in end game. Don't nerf end game, but buff early game. Early game with minions was already strong. We didn't need this. This is just crap. Helmets can no longer roll a 3-to-1 level of socketed minion gems. So it's now +1 and 2 level of all minion skills. I'd argue that's an improvement, because that actually allows for you to roll that, and that affects all the skills in your build, which makes sense that they would do this, because they're taking it out of the Ascendancy, but they're adding it back in gearing options. So I don't think that's bad, and the damage drop off on having a 4-link +3 helm is going to be inconsequential. So I actually think that this is pretty good. This is actually a good change. Global skill gem rolls are way better than socketed. You can now obtain +2 to level socketed minion gems as a corrupted implicit on helmets, body armors, gloves, and boots. That's actually really good, because if you rolled that +2 on a helm and then you corrupted it to +2 on said helm, then you would have a +4 helm, which would be crazy powerful. Ghastly Eyes have had their modifier pool updated. It'd be interesting to see what modifiers they've updated. Indomitable Army passives no longer grants minion has 15% increased life. Don't really care. I think that's got chaos res for them. Okay. So some minion skills are clear outliers in terms of power, and this is where they start. So Absolution has been nerfed. Absolution was really powerful. Played it 2 leagues ago, and it was super powerful. I'm not surprised by this. Animate Guardian's been buffed from a damage perspective, which I don't know how that's going to work. So anyway, that'll be interesting. Maybe we'll have Animate Guardian like an OP Chad Animate Guardian build that's gonna go around and wreck stuff. Animate Weapon, so maybe Chains of Command builds are gonna take off this league again. So Animate Weapon's been buffed. Arakali's Fang's been nerfed. Herald of Agony's been buffed. Herald of Purity has been buffed significantly. So maybe you'll bring back the Hop Hoa Guardian from a few leagues ago. Summon Phantasm. This is the best one because this build still bloody works. With the Soul Rest. So Summon Phantasm now deals 20% more damage at all levels. For me, this is great. Like, Phantasms are so good. And you can run a Absolution variation where the Absolution minions spawn the Phantasms, and you just end up with just huge amounts of damage with Lightning and Doriani's prototype. So, Phantasms, buffed. So we're going back to the Soul Rest build. Instead of Skelly Mages, Phantasms. Raise Zombie. There's no real change to Zombie at this stage. Mainly just increased minion movement speed, which means nothing because you can get that in other ways. Carrion Golem no longer grants 1 to 20% increased minion maximum life. Now has 30% more life, more base life at level at all levels. So they've buffed up Carrion Golem. Yeah, it looks like they've buffed up the survivability of Carrion Golem. I'll take that. Potentially they've buffed that. Chaos Golem I found really interesting. So Golem's Cascade now has added damage effectiveness to 100%. I think they're trying to get, and now it has base crit from 0. So maybe we can play a crit-based summon Chaos Golem, which would be really cool. But I'd be interested to see what the go is with that. That'd be something out there. Because the new Ascendancy change in the Necromancer is Unholy Might is granted. So instead of +2 to minion gems. So maybe a summon Chaos Golem build might be in the works. Summon Flame Golem. What they got here? Will now be able to use the Mortar spell against targets at close range, and now has a 200% added damage effectiveness. And I know where this is going. So, Incinerate now has 80% from 20%. So, we're going to be breaking out the old Summon Golem build that uses the necklace. Can't remember what it's called, where you can have like 20 of these little bastards running around at high speed, killing everything. I'd say that's coming back. Ice Golem. So they've buffed the damage of Ice Golem. Looks like they're just giving us more Golem power. Shit, they've buffed the Lightning Golem through the roof. 250% damage effectiveness for lightning projectile spells from 100%. That's a significant increase. Stone Golem, they haven't changed. Stone Golem's innate power, once you level it up, is as powerful as it is. Summon Holy Relic. Spell Nova. That's a lot of damage. 250% from 70%. And there's a build for that. So I actually like these changes because it means we can play golems, relics, everything. So no longer has minions gain 15% less damage. It looks like they've buffed SRS. Yeah, SRS looks like it's been up to 38% damage at term level 20. Previously 0%. So they buffed SRS, so maybe we'd be playing SRS again. Summon Reaper, buff granted when consuming a minion. It no longer grants 40%. Now grants 40% increased attack speed from 20, 20% increased movement, and 30% increased AoE. Nah, that's not fixing that. That's nerfing Reaper. Summon Skeletons no longer has added 50% more damage. There we go. There's the nerf. So the Skelly Mages deal up to 25% less damage at level 25. So Skelly Mages is gone. We can forget about Skelly Mages for this next league because it's probably still going to be powerful, but it's going to be a lot less powerful. So, because minions are monsters, they inherit some stats. That's really a nothing issue. Minions no longer have hidden penalties to bleed. Okay, so now we can see when minions are getting wrecked by ailments, so that's good. Investing in minion critical strikes has been possible in a very niche manner. This I like, because it means that everything up here with all the buffs, we're also able to scale crit on the minions. So Spirit Offering no longer grants elemental or chaos resistance. Because nobody was using that. And no longer grants additional physical damage as chaos damage because of Unholy Might changes that are coming. It now grants 110% crit check and 30% crit multi up to 39% crit multi. So this is going to get abused. I already know I would be abusing this. Zombie stacking. But my Baron build from a few leagues ago, its power level is going to go through the roof with this. Fearsome Force, passive skill tree, no longer grants minion AoE, grants minion critical strike and multiplier. Okay, the new minion modifier mentioned include a family of minion strike. Okay, so there's all new roles that are coming to wands and shields for minion critical strike, which is really good. This is for the necromancer, so unnatural strength has been taken out, so no longer has +2. Now grants minions have unholy might, which is where it converts damage to chaos damage, which I agree with. I think that's fine. And they're adding this back with the helm anyway, so it's not really a nerf. Miscellaneous skill supports. So it looks like reduce the life. So the problem skills that that you can cause corpse explosion, especially those that so detonate dead, are currently able to deal significantly more damage. So what are they doing? Reduce the life of So they're reducing the life of the Auric Champion and the Auric Colossus, which is what people were abusing to get huge amounts of damage. So they're just nerfing the minions that are fed into it again. And the outcome of this, somebody will go and find another minion and it'll still be powerful because, so that's not really a nerf. They're just moving the crosshairs. Oh, here we go. Skills that cause corpse explosion derive much of the damage through scaling, maximum corpse life. Oh, removed the increased maximum corpse life strat from the Necromancer Ascendancy and reduced the values anywhere else possible. Okay. Alright, so Detonate Dead has been absolutely ruined. So if you're going to play Cremation or Detonate Dead next league, don't, because it's going to suck. Yeah, okay. Oh. Yeah. The jury's out. I'm not too sure if that's a nerf or if that's a buff at this stage. Fire Traps getting nerfed, because that's how you were dealing huge amounts of damage with RF, so Fire Traps gone. Cooldown Traps, mostly being used as a single damage supplement. Trim the availability of trap cooldown and duration. So, fuck. They have buffed flamethrower trap. They have slightly nerfed lightning spire trap. Oh no, buffed lightning spire trap pretty significantly actually. Haste Reconstruction node no longer grants 30% increased cooldown for traps, so they're hitting traps a little bit. Alright, so EA. Explosive Arrow. So it looks like they've they've split the damage effectiveness out of ailments. So this is to do with Ignite styles of this build. So whether or not this is a nerf, it's arguable. It looks like it's a partial nerf, but the on-hit damage is greater. So depends on how you scale that build as to whether or not it'll be good or bad. When spell-based damage values were dramatically increased, methods of triggering spells had their power reduced in compensation. Yeah. That's attacking ward loop builds, and there are a lot of one-hit cast-on death characters that were one-hitting like uber bosses, so they're trying to remove their ability to do that. So, okay. We won't worry about that. Okay, so Sniper's Mark is just getting a nerf where they're reducing the ability for you to generate more flask charges, which is fine. We won't worry about this. Hydrosphere doesn't really matter. Due to Path of Exile's constant evolution, there are some skills and support gems that have been left underwhelming to use. Buffs. So, these are all the skills that appear to be getting buffed. Artillery Ballista, buffed. Blazing Salvo, buffed. Which is great, because it's actually a pretty fucking huge buff, and it was already powerful. So my Blazing Salvo build, if you're watching this, I'll put a link in the description to the build. Next league, it's going to be fucking awesome. So Blazing Salvo, next league, done. We played it in a league where it wasn't buffed, and it was super powerful. So awesome. Cleave, getting buffed. Crackling Lance, buffed. Decoy Totem, no one plays that. Devouring Totem, no one plays that. Energy Blade, buffed. Firestorm, buffed. Haste is now maybe redeemable. Reeve, buffed. Scorching Ray, buffed. Probably not enough though. Scourge Arrow's been buffed up again because they realized that it's actually pretty good. Shock Nova, it appears to be buffed, and I just rolled a Shock Nova build, so buffed. Solren, buffed. Spellslinger, buffed. Buffed significantly. So Spellslinger. Do the Spellslinger build I made a few leagues ago. Buffed. Sunder, significantly buffed. Though they could give it more. Val Flame Blast, buffed. Arrow Nova, buffed. Nobody uses Urgent Orders, and Critical Strike Affliction, it's not really used. Miscellaneous Ascendancy Balances. Won't go into any crazy detail here. It now grants 40%. So Juggernaut Untiring now grants 40% increased life regeneration rate. Yeah, okay. So they've simplified that. That's actually a good improvement. That'll make Jug really powerful. Okay. Chieftains, Tower, yeah, nobody was using it. Yeah, but you got to fix slams for Chieftain to be better. You got to fix slams. Like they absolutely wreck slams. So that definitely needs. So hopefully melee. Come on, give us some fucking melee. That's yeah. Pathfinder's Mastery is quite. Alchemist Mastery is quite weak. So they're adding more power to that. That's good. Cool. Unique item balance. Yeah, they're reducing the power of Omniscience. It's not surprising. Melting of Flesh. So they are... Yeah, they're slightly nerfing Melting of Flesh by -2%, which is nothing. So that's fine. So Brittle is getting a slight nerf. I don't think that that's going to be nerfed enough though, because Brittle's really powerful. Reservation Efficiency, this is a big one. So they are nerfing the mastery nodes and they're removing some of it from the tree. So balancing more auras will be a little more difficult, but not impossible. I don't think that this is necessary, because the reason that we have to use fucking auras is because they made the game ridiculously hard at the end game level, and we had to mitigate all these stupid ailments now that we never had to do before simplistically. So we've had to use more auras to get around that, and so by nerfing this, they're not improving the quality of life of the game, they're just making the game unnecessarily harder. I would be happy with this if they took Corrupted Blood out. But anyway. So nerfed auras, Flask Modifiers. they're nerfing Flask Modifiers. So lower the values of Flask Modifiers to grant charges when you're hit by enemies. So they've reduced the number of charges that generate. If you roll a 3, that's fine. But that's going to be a real pain in the ass for some Flasks. Damn. They're just making it hard. Nothing else here. Changebreaker's getting some changes. Damage taken in his life is a relatively new recovery. So now they're adding more modifiers in for that. So the roll-up here is it's not all nerfs. I don't believe for a second like it's all nerfs. But I do not agree with like aura changes and some of the defense layering changes that they're constituting or instituting into the new changes. Anyway, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I thought I'd do this video because not all of us want to read through these changes, and not all of us know what every single one of them will impact in the game as well. But anyway, I don't think it's all bad news. There is some good news here. Don't go off and read like some of the shit that you'll read out there, as well as other content creators I've already seen putting out videos where they're like, the game is fucked. Oh, let's just all leave the game. We said that shit like 2-3 leagues ago. We're still playing the game. It's just a good game. So anyway, until next time, like and sub to this video, and hopefully we get some good patch notes and some just want melee buffs at this stage. Just give us melee buffs. Anyway, until next time, have a good one, and bye.